Joe, I think we're going to have to rename this show Nolan Watch, as in Christopher Nolan Watch, because wouldn't you know it, last week's Cold Open was about Nolan's new movie. This week's Cold Open is about Nolan's new movie. This frickin' rumor train will not stop chugging along.
What did we learn this week?
This week, because every week there's new intel, and then the next week it turns out to be false.
Rumors galore.
Either Nolan's trolling us or Universal's trolling us or some combination, but it usually turns out to be BS. Except this week, we got two pieces of news, one of which is definitive. We actually have a definitive piece of news about the Nolan movie. The other is as suspect as everything else. The first, though, definitive, is the casting. We already knew Matt Damon was in this thing, and now we got a new cast member, little Spider Boy himself, Zendaya's better half, Tom Holland, joined the cast with Matt Damon. We got two people cast in the Nolan movie, Joe. What do you think about this casting?
Two flat-faced guys could be doing a time jump thing, could be doing father-son, could be doing here he is as a young man. Yeah, that's the time jump. Could be doing that. Could be doing two characters that never meet because it's about, the entire history of Western civilization or something.
That's the thing is, based on how big the cast was for Oppenheimer, I think every character actor in Hollywood was in Oppenheimer. Matt Damon and Tom Holland could very well never interact in the movie. They could end up being like 2 out of 20 people that are in this movie. But right for now, as the two cast members, it seems like the movie is about them. I mean, he's done sort of Tenet's kind of a two-hander with the villain. So it may be, but if that's the case, I cannot imagine a less interesting pairing of A-listers than Matt Damon and Tom Holland. This is maybe the most boring possible pairing of two A-list actors I can imagine. This is the where's the beef of casting. The I went to Hollywood and all I got was this lousy T-shirt of casting. This is like boring. I almost am like, is this a troll too?
Holland is such an interesting guy because
you have to convince me on this one. Tell me.
Because I think of his generation of young up-and-coming actors, movie stars.
Yeah.
As far as box office numbers go, he's winning the race by 1,000 miles.
Because he hitched his star to the Marvel train.
Because he's in Spider-Man.
Yes.
And he plays Spider-Man.
Solely because he's in Spider-Man.
Absolutely. That doesn't take it away from him. So he has, but it does take it away from him in the sense that all of his other movies, non-Spider-Man, flop. He really doesn't have a distinctive personality outside of the Spider-Man franchise, and maybe he's really good and we just don't know yet. Maybe, as far as I can see, he's really just pretty good, and we'll have to see. He was in Romeo and Juliet, controversially on the West End or Broadway or something, remember? In the multiracial cast one. And
he seems like he wants to make the crossover and join the crew of your Timothy Chalamets, your Jacob Elordis, your Paul Mescals, his contemporaries, his contemporaries who are getting like prestige roles, award season roles. Yeah. He is trying to make that crossover. We'll see if he does it here. As yet, he has failed to do it. I don't know if he's got the chops. He's in good hands.
Harry Styles didn't have the chops, and Dunkirk's one of the great movies of the decade.
And Dunkirk is probably his best performance just because he's just in the Nolan troupe, So Nolan's gonna
like JGL, horrible actor. He's like cool in Inception for some reason, like by the power of and grace of God.
Nolan somehow prevents you from giving a like rock bottom performance. Yeah. You're gonna give a solid performance. He's just gonna, at the very least, he'll just drag you along.
Robert Downey Jr., a great actor. Not comparing him to Tom Holland, but I am in the sense that he marveled for a decade, and then he Nolaned, and he won his Academy Award. For all we know, we could be sitting here.
And you know what? Now that you say that, they have a little father-son dynamic. They had that father-son dynamic in the Marvel movies, Iron Man and Spider-Man. Oh. But I think in real life, they have a mentor-mentee relationship. Maybe he put in a good word with Nolan. Has anybody come up with that yet? I think I bet RDJ put in a good word.
Much like when
you got to give this kid a chance, Chris.
Kirsten Dunst told Sofia Coppola about Kaylee Spaney.
Yeah, just like
RDJ told Nolan about Tom Holland. You gotta watch this kid.
Ryan Philippe got Reese Witherspoon into Cruel Intentions.
Exactly.
There's a lot of examples.
There's a lot of examples.
Now, the other rumor we got that seems less reliable, because Hollywood Reporter published the Tom Holland casting story, and in that article they wrote, plot details are being kept under wraps, but sources say, we hear this every week, sources say the setting is not present day. but they mention it's unclear whether that means past or future.
Yeah, I mean,
so
that doesn't mean anything.
you know
Is it
nothing.
yesterday? Yeah.
But then Gizmodo, of all people, Gizmodo, which does like tech journalism, right?
Yep.
They republished this and they added this little nugget in, and this is very bold of Gizmodo. In the Hollywood Reporter story about Holland's casting, writes that the setting is not present day, et cetera, et cetera. Well, we heard.
Oh.
They're using the first person here. We heard. Two of those things could potentially be true. We got word from a reliable source that Nolan's film is a vampire movie set in the 1920s. So Gizmodo set this Nolan train. It had finally gotten back on the tracks on a reliable footing. Okay, Tom Holland's in the Hollywood Reporter. We know that's true. And then Gizmodo sends this train reeling into chaos by saying vampire movie set in the 1920s. Maybe,
you know how,
or maybe not.
The right wing always hits you with this one, like who are the sources?
Yeah.
Name the sources.
Yeah.
Otherwise, that's what I'm going to do on this story.
Gizmodo, name your sources.
This is a fake news. Show me your sources.
Who said vampire movie set in the 1920s?
Reveal your source.
I actually wonder if this is a little bit of trolling from Universal or Nolan as well, or from this source, because as we'll talk about in the movie news section, the Blade remake has been indefinitely put on hiatus because of 100 issues, one of them being the script. And apparently one of the issues with the script is that it originally was set in the 1920s, and then the Marvel didn't like that, and so they're trying to get a script in that's like more present day now. But we almost had a 1920s Blade for a second. This feels like I'm wondering if
are you positing that like Disney got cold feet on that script when they heard Nolan was doing it, or
No.
you're saying
What
that
I'm positing
Nolan stole the idea from Blade?
I'm not positing either thing. I'm positing a third thing,
Okay.
which is that Universal is trolling Disney Marvel, who can't get this Blade movie
Via
off the ground
press.
by saying, well, maybe Nolan will do the 1920s vampire movie. I think this is a troll. I think it's not true.
Now, doesn't Coogler have a vampire
Coogler
movie
also
coming
does.
out?
Coogler also does.
With Michael B. Jordan.
I don't know how this is true based on their track record. Early word is it's not great.
Oh, really?
That's what I've heard.
Show me your sources.
I don't know. And it's also going to be Nolan starts filming this movie next year for a release in July of 2026. They also think like the movies, the Coogler movie and the Nolan movie are going to be over a year apart. Nobody's going to give a shit.
Right.
So yeah, Coogler is doing a period vampire story.
That sucks.
What were my sources? I just read. I don't know.
source?
I read 100 things a week. Half of it's unreliable.
Well, you know, I really like Creed. It's a huge movie, and I really like Black Panther, which was a huge movie.
Yeah.
Coogler's, and then I watched the trailer for the Michael B.
Fruitvale
Jordan, who I love,
Station?
and I said to
Yeah.
myself, "Great,
Yeah.
that looks great." So I don't look. Show me
that
your source.
I know. You
Show
know what?
me your
I'm
source.
going to say that my source is unreliable on this one, and I don't even know I can't remember what the source was.
Fuck
It
your
was
source.
one of the 100 newsletters that I get in my email, all just full of industry nonsense every day of the week.
We'll be back here in 2 weeks talking about what a piece of dog shit the Coogler vampire one is.
Now, we're going to have to wait a while for this Christopher Nolan movie. We're going to probably have to wait a while for any reliable intel on it. But in the meantime, this week on Movies Baby, we finally got to see ANORA, Joe. Sean Baker's new movie, ANORA. It came out in limited release last weekend. We saw it. We're going to review it. Plus, Smile 2 and the hottest Hollywood news and box office updates that you crave. We got it all, baby. Joe, are you ready?
Oh, yeah.
Then, Carson, why don't you roll that theme song, please? Oh, there it is. I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. But how about you? Do you have it bad too? I think that you do. Whenever one ends, it's like the death of a friend. I get to wishing that there were 2 more reels. But then a voice cries out, "Move, baby, you're in my seat, and you don't want to mess with who? The Philly
Me.
movie freak." There he is.
I can't get enough movies, baby. I can't get enough movies, baby. Oh, yes, it's true. Oh, I've got it bad.
He's got it
too.
bad. He's sick.
Every night of the year, like the moon, I appear at all the movie theaters all over town.
Even the one in Highland Park.
Cut to black. Roll credits.
Whoa, baby.
I'm lost in a fog. I need someone to talk to.
Hi.
Look, it's the Georgia movie dog. Dog, 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 dog.
I can't get enough movies,
I
baby.
can't get enough movies,
I
baby.
can't get enough movies, baby.
Welcome to Movies Baby, the weekly show where we break down the hottest movie news, review the latest releases, shout out forgotten classics, and prophesy the future of our beloved Hollywood. I'm Joe Cilio, a.k.a. the Philly Movie Freak, here as always with Brett Boehm, a.k.a. the Georgia Movie Dog.
Go Dogs! Joe, big win for the Dogs last weekend in Austin, Texas against the formerly #1 team in the country, the Texas Longhorns. And you know, I do my little 5-second Georgia Bulldog recap every week, and then we quickly get into the movies. But this week, there is a crossover between the Georgia Bulldogs football team and the movies, because at this Georgia-Texas game, there was not one, there was not two, there was multiple A-list stars on the sidelines. You, of course, had Matthew McConaughey,
Of course.
in his Texas gear.
King of Texas.
He actually has a job at UT. They call him the Minister of Culture. I think he actually gets a small annual salary from the University of Texas for being their Minister of Culture. He tried to work his black magic. It was not happening. Georgia won 30-15. But in addition to McConaughey, Glen Powell was also on the sidelines. The star of Hitman, one of my favorite movies of the year. He was great in Twisters. You know, I was big on Glen Powell.
You love Glen Powell.
I was big on Glen Powell.
You taught me to love Glen, and I do.
But you'll notice I'm using the past tense. I was big on Glen Powell. Joe, I am out on Glen Powell. And it's not just because
he's a Longhorn.
No. He's from Austin. He can root for his hometown team. He can also stand on the sidelines in his favorite, cowboy in a cologne advertisement cosplay.
Why are you coming for your guy?
On. Here's why, Joe. Because the weekend before this game, do you know where Glen Powell was? Do you know where he was?
The red carpet.
No. The green carpet of Sanford Stadium, Georgia's home football stadium. The week before the UT-Georgia game, Glen Powell was at Georgia's football game in Sanford Stadium.
Well, you were playing Alabama.
No. This was Mississippi State.
Okay. All right.
And so he was at that game.
Okay.
He's filming a Hulu show.
Sure.
You've heard of Hulu, called Chad Powers, about some. I guess it's football related.
It's Eli Manning he plays a fake QB.
I don't know. Okay.
Or
I don't
in Chad Powers.
He's
an old college. He stayed in college too long, and he's the backup.
This ain't TV, baby. This is movies, baby. We don't give a shit about TV. We don't watch
this
TV.
This isn't TV, baby.
Okay? But whatever. They were filming a scene at the halftime of this Georgia game in Sanford Stadium in Athens. And the scene was he runs out. Glen Powell runs out. He's got a silly blonde wig on. He runs out with his team, and they asked the whole stadium to boo when he comes out because I guess he's in the other team's stadium. And guess what they did? All these Georgia kids, the whole Sanford Stadium, they booed like crazy. Unpaid background actors. They gave their all. They gave it all to this baby. They were booing. They're going, you suck, all this stuff. Perfect. They played the role. They nailed it. So he goes to Georgia, gets all this free labor from the Georgia fans for his Hulu show. And the next week, what is he doing? He's rooting against Georgia.
He's just an actor.
He's rooting against
shoot
Georgia.
Things in Georgia because of the tax credits.
He should show
what
more
the producer
loyalty.
set up.
And I'm not saying don't root for Texas, your hometown team. I'm saying, do you have to be all on the sidelines in your fake cowboy gear about it? You look like Matthew McConaughey's younger brother. It's not happening.
Chad McConaughey.
I'm out on Glen Powell.
You'll be back. You'll be back. Well, I'll see you around.
I'm gonna love Chad Powers.
I'll see you watch all 6 episodes. All 6 20-minute episodes.
The one silver lining here, though, Joe, the one gift we got out of this is that Georgia's coach, the great Kirby Smart. Yeah. My answer to the question, if you could have dinner with one person, living or dead, who would it be? It would be Georgia coach Kirby Smart. Kirby was asked about Glen Powell in his post-game press conference, and this is the week before Texas. So this is like, did you know Glen Powell was here filming this scene? Did you see all that going on? And this is what Kirby said in response, Carson. If we can play that clip.
Who? What?
Joe talked over it. Do one more. Hold on. You good? Yeah. All right. One more time, Carson.
Who?
Sorry, Carson. One last time.
Who?
Who? Thank you.
Wait, now.
So honestly,
All right,
devastating for
now we
Glen.
need a soundboard.
Devastating for Glen. That would be
good.
on there, right?
Who?
So they were like, Kirby, did you see Glen Powell was here from
Who?
Who? So suck it, Glen Powell.
That was the first pull quote we've ever had, or the first time we ever played audio. Yeah, okay.
Honestly, yeah, we should do more of that. That was good. That was good. Maybe we peaked, honestly. All right. So I'm dead. I'm dead on Glen Powell. You will not be showing up in my best of 2024 recap.
You bitch.
This does not
Excuse
apply.
my gendered language, but friend, you love Glen Powell.
College football, particularly SEC rivalries, run deep, baby. They run deep. Adria Arjona, Glen Powell's co-star in Hitman, you're fine. This does not apply to you. You're not catching a stray here. You will most likely appear on my best of 2024 list. But Glen, you're out of here, buddy. I know we're talking football, but I'm going to do a baseball terminology. You're out. 3 strikes. 3 strikes all in one.
You know what? Your loss. Go back to your
Glen's loss. I'm a great
go back
supporter.
To your Bulldogs.
I'm a passionate supporter.
Who do you guys have on the sidelines watching your games?
Quavo. Pretty cool, right?
I guess.
Very cool.
Sloppy seconds from
cool.
Quavo.
Sloppy seconds?
Because he's a Hawks attendee. That's what he's famous for. Sloppy seconds over there on the Georgia side.
He is a passionate Georgia fan.
Okay.
Passionate Georgia fan.
Okay.
Joe, speaking of Hollywood, let's take a look at this weekend's let's take a look at this past weekend's box office returns. Carson, show me the money.
It's my favorite part of the week.
Looking
at the money.
When
Scrooge.
When Carson or Margot cross dissolves to the box office, it's the highlight.
It's the best part of my
week.
week.
It's the highlight.
My son.
So last week, not this week. Last week, Joker 2 got pummeled by a movie about a killer clown. This week, Joker 2 got pummeled again by a movie about a creepy smile. Joker 2 is getting owned to a degree that no movie has ever gotten owned before. But before we get to Joker 2, let's talk about what came in first. That very creepy Smile movie itself, Smile 2, had a great opening weekend at the box office, earning $23 million domestic on a $28 million budget. The movie's already up to $50 million worldwide, so it's already knocking on the door of profit after 1 week in theaters. And thanks to some very positive reviews. Stay tuned for our review later in the episode. But
just to hammer that down.
Yes.
Very few movies ever premiere internationally at the same, almost better than what it premiered at domestically on the same opening weekend. That really just speaks to A, the power of horror, and B, the power of the Smile franchise.
Who knew?
Which, bully on them.
It's called Smile, but it's got legs.
Smile 1,
it's got legs.
Nice. Smile 1 made a ton of money, so Smile 2 was bound to make money as well. But man, people,
you never know.
That's amazing.
Venom, which comes out next week, has had diminishing returns over the course of going from 1 to 2, and now what's projected for 3. So it's no guarantee that the sequels are going to pay off. But Smile 2 certainly did. And you better believe, because of that, we're going to get a Smile 3. So congrats to Paramount, writer director Parker Finn, star Naomi Scott, and the whole Smile 2 team. Congrats to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Paramount, big win for the Ellisons. Their new studio.
Yes, congrats to David Ellison.
Yes. And Larry.
Big win for the new ownership, and really Larry.
Congrats
to
Larry.
We're being right. The guy behind the guy. Now, another thing that helps Smile 2 is that usually in October, we see a lot more studio horror releases than we're seeing this month. Because, of course, there's Terrifier 3, but that's such an anomaly. It's a $2 million indie. I'm talking about, studio. This is usually when the studios roll out their big horror movies. But we didn't get a Blumhouse movie this October because they moved Wolfman to January. We didn't get an A24 horror. They have Heretic with Hugh Grant, but that's coming out in November. We didn't get anything from the Conjuring universe. We didn't really, it's just sort of Smile 2. So I think in addition to the movie being great and having a great trailer and great marketing and people liking the first one, it seems like it benefited from just being the option to the only answer to the question, hey, let's go see a horror movie. What's playing?
Yeah. I don't want to short sell the Smile brand, though. Smile 1 it was the #1 horror movie in 2022, and it got great reviews, and I think that Smile 1 was absolutely excellent. All those things, plus some nice marketing and a real nice, Smile 2 entry. Hit, baby. Bang. Good for them.
Congratulations. And speaking of Terrifier 3, though, wow, it just keeps going. It followed up its record-breaking week 1 with a really impressive week 2, earning an additional $9.3 million with only a 50% drop-off. Remember, for comparison, Joker 2 had an 81% drop-off. And, of course, that was, like, historically bad. But it goes to show you the 50% drop-off in week 2 is pretty solid. And it just adds to its total. It's far and away the highest earning Terrifier movie in the Terrifier franchise.
Well, yeah.
And maybe more impressively, it is the fourth, you were pointing this out to me today, it's the fourth biggest horror movie of the year in terms of box office.
Already.
Fourth after 2 weeks, behind only Quiet Place Day 1, Alien Romulus, and Longlegs. It just passed Speak No Evil. Wow. Congrats to Damien Leone and the team over there. Now let's quickly talk about the latest installment in the Joker 2 debacle. Joker 2, after dropping a record 80% in week 2, somehow dropped another 70%. It dropped 70% after dropping 80% to fall into the 6th spot in only its third week with 2.1 million domestic, bringing it up to 57 million domestic. This movie's not going to break 100 million domestic, Joe, on a 200 million budget, and the first one doing $1 billion total worldwide. Plus marketing, thank you. And it's interesting, though. There has been this big disparity for Joker 2 between domestic and international ticket sales. You see 57 million domestic, 136 international. And if you look at the year's results, most movies do ultimately, when all said and done, do a little bit better internationally than domestic.
Well, we're one country.
Exactly, just because there's a bit more exposure. But not like this kind of disparity. Usually it's very marginal, almost the same. Here, we're seeing international being almost 3 times as big as domestic. And it made me think of the point you've been bringing up about how, in addition to Joker 2 just being sort of an uninspired slog of a movie, you think American audiences are fatigued with the vibes. They're fatigued with, lonely men with violent tendencies who get red-pilled. They're fatigued by that plot. They're fatigued by
I do think
the
that.
School shooter kind of character.
I think the world is fatigued.
Is this proving
by
that?
Yes,
Okay.
I think it is. Remember in France how the left came out of nowhere to stop the far right just a couple of months ago, and it was a huge deal. Europe is uninterested in. I know there's pockets of it. Everyone's so sick and tired of the Joker, of anarchy, of violence, of fear, of hating each other. It's just a fucking drag. Plus that runtime is onerous, plus the word musical, plus the word, I don't know what other words, but that's enough. Todd Phillips. But internationally it did well because, hey, this is a Batman movie. And maybe when they just marketed it differently over there. They weren't pushing the this is amazing. They were just Joker 2. Joker 2, Joker 2.
It's funny, movies like this seem to do better when you think about them less.
Yes,
like there was such a discourse around the movie here in America, and I wonder if other countries had that same level of discourse saturation, or if they were just oh, hey, it's the new Joker movie. I haven't heard a damn thing. I'm sure it's good.
So it was 136 all told worldwide, or that's just the international figure?
So the international was up to 136, and the domestic is 57. So
okay,
usually
it's going to make $210 million.
Yeah.
It's still going to be the 7th biggest movie of the year or some nonsense.
That's right. But because of the budget, this movie needs to get well north of $400 million to see profit, due to its inflated production budget, which was around $200 million. And right now, all told, is barely sniffing 200.
So that sucks. But the international thing, it's just there's a bajillion other countries. China exists, and it's a Batman movie, so it's going to do some numbers.
They with all of as bad as it's been, they might find some financial hijinks to get this thing to break even, but it's going to take a lot. And not surprisingly, Joe, I don't know if you saw this, but they are rushing the VOD streaming release of Joker 2. It is coming out the end of October, which is the same month that it premiered. If anything, it will be written on the tombstone of Joker 2. It's that it came out on VOD the same month it released in theaters. And I know that was common a couple of years ago, post-COVID, with Project Popcorn and all that dumb stuff. But it's not really the mode anymore. People have been reinvesting, studios have been reinvesting in theatrical releases, have been increasing the sort of time between the theatrical release and the VOD release.
Yeah.
But Joker 2 said, holy shit, pull the red cord. It's emergency time. We need to get this thing on streaming because it ain't making shit in theaters.
I had mentioned China, and yes, the movie did come out in China on October 17th. But I just quick did I wonder how it did in China based off that thing I just said. And it said this: Beijing, October 17th. At what should have been a prime 6 p.m. slot on its opening day in China, Joker Folie 2 drew only 3 moviegoers on Wednesday at a downtown Beijing cinema in the bustling Qianmen tourist area. So all that's to say, not doing well in China.
Wow. Yeah, so everybody
No one cares about this.
via osmosis almost just picked up on the fact that this movie has a
Stinks.
dark cloud around
Yeah,
it.
I guess I shouldn't have said, oh, people exist in China, so they go to the movies. I should say, reviews exist in
Right,
China.
Right.
Yeah, fuck Joker 2.
I just don't know sometimes how American-centric these like online discourses are. I guess everything is global now, but you never know. But regardless, it's doing better worldwide, but by no means is the worldwide box office going to save this movie. It will be lucky if it gets anywhere near to break even. It probably won't. It's probably going to lose somewhere in the vicinity of $50 to $100 million.
Something Warner Brothers can't afford.
Cannot
due
afford.
to their hundreds and hundreds of millions.
Cannot
of
afford.
debt. Right.
And speaking of this Joker 2 debacle, we finally got some insight on how Lady Gaga's doing in the wake of this. Because, as we've said, this is not on Lady Gaga.
Not at all.
This is on Todd Phillips mainly.
Yes.
And also Joaquin Phoenix, who came up with the movie in a dream and then insisted that they rewrite the script based around his dream or something.
And like we blamed last week, the turnover at Warner Brothers left a
That's
vacuum,
right.
a power
That's
vacuum
right.
that Todd Phillips and
where
Joaquin
these
could
two
just
wild men just
fill it up.
ran wild and made a dumb movie. And based on what Todd Phillips and Joaquin have said about the making of the movie, when they talk about rewriting the script in Joaquin's trailer based on his whims, et cetera, et cetera.
Jesus.
And Todd Phillips had some line about how, and Gaga was so patient with that process and patient with all that. Whenever he would say that, like, she's so patient with the process, all I could picture was that clip. Have you ever seen that clip of, from the 90s of Fiona Apple just getting, pontificated at by Quentin Tarantino?
Of course.
And she can,
it's my
it's the best thing ever.
ringtone.
And she can't. Your ringtone is the sound of her just not even hiding, not even with the barely concealing her total boredom and disgust.
She's cringing,
It's
her
amazing.
body's just contorting.
While Tarantino, talks about the genius of rolling thunder or whatever he was
It
on
was
about.
Top Gun or something.
I have that picture in my mind when Todd Phillips is like, Gaga was so patient with the process. Just like the guy who cannot tell that a woman is barely tolerating their bullshit. And it's like, oh, she's being so patient with it. No, she's fucking hates this. And that turned out to be true because rumors out of Gaga camp are that Gaga is obviously embarrassed by this debacle. But mostly she is furious because apparently they left a lot of her performance on the cutting room floor, particularly around the musical numbers, which is just idiotic.
Well, they had to include 2.5 hours of other nonsense.
I mean, say what you want about Bradley Cooper.
Thank you. This is the second time. This is the second time in 2 weeks that you're defending Cooper and saying he should have been in the room on Joker 2. How is this your take?
Because here's what I'm going to say. On Star is Born, he had I'll call it wherewithal. It's just common sense. He had the common sense to let Gaga write the main song.
No. Star is Born is good.
Right?
Because
he's like, oh, it's a musical thing with Gaga. Well, Gaga will do the music.
All right.
And in Joker 2, instead of you have a generation-defining pop superstar on your cast, and you're picking your songs almost at random like a freaking arcade claw machine out of the mid-century songbook, and you somehow pick the most boring, overplayed, dumb standards ever. And you got Gaga right here. You're not letting her write the music. I think she wrote one song. You're not letting her write the music, and then you're also cutting out half of her performance.
Yeah, what the fuck?
You might want to start there as to where the movie went wrong.
Yeah, I agree. Hey, she released an album in tandem with it called Harlequin. We work at a company with a ton of Lady Gaga super fans, okay? People that fucking love Lady Gaga. I didn't hear boo about Harlequin. I mean, a couple people saying around oh, I gotta I'm sort of the attitude around the office was I'm getting prepared to defend Harlequin was the attitude. But I haven't heard a word about that album.
Because none of this is on Gaga. Her career temporarily got hijacked by Todd Phillips and Joaquin Phoenix, and this is just going to be a wash. This is going to be like a net zero for her. It's not going to. It's not going to go up. She's not going to go down. But I understand why she's fucking furious because she's like, why am I?
Well, it's a waste of her time.
Yeah, it's a
she
total
could
waste
have
of
spent
her
a year and a half doing something that would make her, next tour $1 gajillion instead of $1 bajillion.
Well, I've got some good box office news for you now, which is that ANORA had a huge limited release opening weekend. It was only in 6 theaters, but it earned $630,000. You're not going to see it here because it was limited release, but it earned $630,000 at 6 theaters. That's a per theater of $105,000, easily the biggest per theater opening of the year, beating out Kinds of Kindness, which did $75,000 per theater. And Joe, it is the second biggest per theater opening post-COVID. Second biggest per theater post-COVID, second only to Asteroid City. You know, a Wes Anderson movie is always going to kill in limited release.
Starring Tom Hanks, Scarlett Johansson.
Exactly.
Et cetera. Right.
Which did $142K per theater in 2023. So the second biggest, essentially what we're saying is like second biggest indie of the last 5 years at the box office.
Right. So this is, this is called a platform release. This is when a studio has a movie that they, they want it to be award season or it's an independent release. And then they put it out in a few theaters. And then if it does well, they put it in a few more and they put it out and they do it a few more. In the past, this could take time. Famously, The King's Speech, it had like 5 months of slightly wider releases and it ended up making $150 million or something. Well, actually, I have it right here. $139 million in North America, $472 million worldwide, and won Best Picture because the horrible Weinsteins appropriately like paced out that. Now that's from a bygone era, and I get that. But I just want to say, like, though I am so happy for ANORA and so happy for Sean Baker that this did so well, I am nervous, Brett, because Asteroid City only went on to do like $27 million.
Yeah.
ANORA
though.
Hold on.
Okay.
Other movies this year that did platform releases, like Saturday Night, comes out great opening per theater release.
Good point.
Fizzles.
Good point.
And then there was another one too, Kinds of Kindness, huge platform release. 2 weeks later, never heard another thing about these movies. They go wide, it's fucking dead. And I am afraid for ANORA. I mean, really, the only time post-COVID or COVID and post-COVID that a platform release was successful was Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's the only one that did this, and it went great. Everything else, Licorice Pizza, it made $400,000 per theater in 6 theaters, went, financially nowhere, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I think it's because it's hard in this environment for word of mouth to have it's so tough, like true word of mouth. Like Terrifier 3 isn't necessarily word of mouth. We talked about last week how Terrifier 3 is word of mouth in the sense a little bit, but what it really is Cineverse owns 80 million unique listeners per month across their 30 streaming services and gigantic podcast network to specifically market to for free. ANORA has to actually get people to the box office. It has to get Gen Z, people who think Mikey Madison is cool and who think like the story is young and cool, which it is, but they don't traditionally go to the multiplex or to the theaters. And then the older people, they have to convince like, no, it's not about like young people really. It's actually about love and life and New York or whatever they want to say. So I think it's going to be a tough nut to crack. I hope like it won the Palme d'Or. Mikey Madison's a star. Sean Baker's up and coming. It's an enjoyable movie, although it is sad. Like I hope that doesn't secretly get out, like, because it's like fun until it's really sad. I don't want to throw cold water on this at all. I just want to point out that like we've had so much up top good news followed by so much silence. And if this movie doesn't perform well at the box office, it's going to imperil its chances this award season at the major prizes.
Yeah. Well, here's a silver lining perhaps, because I think to take those comparisons, Asteroid City and Saturday Night, I think you bring up a very good point that they were hot in limited release and then fizzled in wide release. But both of those movies, I think, are, to be sort of broad, are movies by aging hipsters for aging hipsters. They don't feel like movies of the moment. ANORA, like Everything Everywhere All at Once, feels more like a movie of the moment.
How dare you?
I do think, regardless of what you think of the movies, they feel like movies of the moment.
Just kidding. Yes.
I think you're spot on about Mikey Madison having real like social media pull with
I hope so. I think so.
Younger millennials and Gen Z. I really think she does. And regardless of the directions the movie goes in and what it makes you feel, this movie's got sex. It's got sex, and it's got like, and we know the oldest saying in the book, sex sells, and not like Yorgos sex from Kinds of Kindness,
real human
human sex.
Right.
So all that being said, ANORA begins its nationwide wide release rollout this weekend. So if you're listening to this, go see ANORA. Go see ANORA if you have not seen it already. You're not going to regret seeing it, regardless what you think about the movie. It's a real experience. It's a necessary watch. Go see ANORA, and we'll do our spoilers disclaimer later on. But I will say, for ANORA, I feel like because we saw it in limited release and it hasn't even gone into wide release. Let's try to be a little extra careful around.
So all I said was sometimes it's happy and sometimes it's sad.
It's never about
It's a
you.
movie.
I'm saying
It's
it
a
talking to
movie.
myself as well.
Okay, all right.
I'm talking to myself
appreciate
as
that.
well.
I know it's about
just like specific plot points for the second half of the movie.
Fair enough,
Let's
fair
try
enough.
to play it safer on that stuff.
Fair enough.
But before we get into the reviews, let's talk box office projections for this for the next couple weekends. First, this weekend, the number one movie at the box office this weekend is going to be the new Venom, The Last Dance, the third installment in the Venom franchise.
I'm really excited.
I can't wait to see Venom.
I normally don't.
It's
I
so
don't always
goofy.
love the
It's so silly.
superhero movies to go see, but this one
Tom Hardy's so
I'm really excited.
wacky and
I like the
gonzo in it.
Venoms.
I can't wait.
Yeah.
Now, financially, though, it has a $120 million budget. The official studio projections right now are like 60, 65, but all the box office heads are saying it's going to be 50s. It could even go as low as like 48. So the box office heads are saying like 48 to 55. The studio's like, oh, we can do 60. Both projections, though, are low for a $120 million budgeted movie. So right now it is trending towards not a disaster, but not a huge win, like a soft bomb. And this seems to be on trend as well because the first Venom did 80 opening weekend en route to 850 million worldwide. Remember pre-COVID movies? The second one did 90 opening weekend, better opening weekend, but then only did 560 worldwide total. So the franchise has been sort of slowly trending down coming to this third one. So I wouldn't be surprised if we do see something in the realm of the 50s en route to like a, I don't know, what does it do? 350 million?
I'm gonna go slight over just because, like you pointed out earlier, there's no horror releases.
Yeah, so maybe
so
this
that,
sort of
like, let's go to the movies this weekend. What's out? Oh, okay, Venom. Like, that's fun.
Yeah.
Venom's fun. Maybe I have slight optimism.
particularly people coming off of Terrifier 2, Smile 2, they're in a horror mood. What's the closest thing to that?
Venom.
Yeah.
And it's like fun enough, big enough.
Yeah.
We'll see. I
We'll
could
see.
be totally wrong.
We'll see. Well, we'll be back next week to tell you how Venom did. I also want you to circle on your calendar, Joe, November 22nd, Friday, November 22nd, because that is the day that this whole year's box office is banking on. Because this year, last year was Barbenheimer. Everybody's talking about Barbenheimer saved the movie, saved the box office. You remember? 2024 was actually trending to be a bigger box office year in total than 2023 because of all these sort of just consistent wins throughout the summer and then the big wins of Inside Out 2 and Deadpool and Wolverine. That came to a crashing halt, though, with Joker because part of the projections were based on Joker doing Joker numbers, and it didn't. It didn't, Joker 2 didn't do Conclave numbers, okay? It did nothing. And so now 2024 is trending down. It's not going to beat 2023 unless November 22nd. Will we possibly get a new Barbenheimer, 2024's Barbenheimer, when Gladiator 2 and Wicked premiere on the same weekend? What do you think, Joe? Do Gladiator 2 and Wicked collectively save the box office?
Yes!
Barbenheimer Part 2.
Yes! I actually think a version of yes. I obviously don't think it's going to do Barbenheimer numbers, and that's not what you're suggesting. But as far as a 1-2 punch, here's my sources, and I'll reveal their names. One, my dad.
Yeah. An important source.
Texted me, oh, Gladiator 2 is coming out.
That's
huge.
big.
No,
that's big.
Oh, like
that's big.
Wow, Jesus. Like, my dad texted me Gladiator 2 is coming out. Like, he doesn't text me that.
That
He barely
anecdote
texts me
is
anything.
more telling than all the box office prognostication I could read online.
And then here's my other source that I'll name. My wife, we saw the Wicked trailer in November 22nd, and she goes, "Oh my God, hey, I'm gonna go to that when you're on Thanksgiving break, so you can watch the
This
baby."
is big.
And I was
these
like,
are big.
okay.
These are very important anecdotes.
That's my sources.
Very important anecdotes.
My wife, who doesn't love movies, or like whatever. She's not a movie crazy movie dog like us.
Yeah.
She's like going to Wicked, and she's not even a Wicked head. She just like likes a big musical that's fun.
That's it. That's why I think it has Barbenheimer
yeah.
potential because I think there will be a sense of an event. I think it'll feel like an event.
Yeah, she
going to the
her
movies
and her
will
two
feel
buddies,
like an event.
her two girlfriends, they're going already.
Yes.
They already got. I don't know if they have tickets, but they're planning on going. They're psyched.
Yep.
And my dad's texting me about Gladiator. If dads and wives and their friends are all interested, could be huge, Brett.
Could be huge. And we also have Moana 2 coming out November 29th. That to me feels more of a sure thing, though. That's just you can go ahead and write it in. You know, it's going to make whatever it makes, 600, 700, 800 million.
Brutalist opening to 120 million. Come on.
But Gladiator 2 and Wicked feels more of like the variable now. We'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But let's do it, baby. Let's make it the new Barbenheimer. We'll dress up as
Wicked and Gladiator.
As Gladiator, you can do a Roman, Gladiator outfit. You can do your Glinda
green,
or
you can paint yourself
Elphaba.
green.
Yes, they've got the macaroni and cheese at Walmart that is either pink or green, depending on you pour in water and you don't know which color it's going to be. So the marketing is happening.
So it's
the
happening.
It's
all happening.
The Gladiator 2 popcorn box with like the AR gladiators in it, which I don't even understand what that means.
These popcorn boxes.
Yeah,
I gotta
Speak
say,
on it.
I've never bought one because I'm not a stupid asshole, but they're all awesome. And if you buy one, I get it. They're fun. I like them all. Every week it's like, oh, there's the Dune 2. Oh, there's the...
They're great.
There's the... They're fucking cool as shit.
I did get last week...
Okay, let me clarify. I, the person, can't spend another dollar in good conscience on dumb nonsense.
That's what you mean.
That's what I meant.
They are cool.
When I called you guys stupid assholes, what I meant to say was adults shouldn't buy novelty popcorn buckets. But wait, no. What I meant to say was it's on me.
What you meant to say was this is a brilliant scheme by the theaters to continue to make money as box office receipts
they're
go
actually
down
sick.
year
I
over
want.
year.
All right, I'm gonna get one. Maybe I'll get Gladiator too.
You should Gladiator too. You know what I got last weekend, which was like kind of a soft approach. It was like the first step to getting one of these popcorn boxes. I should have brought it today. I got a Smile 2 limited edition cup.
Oh, you got the cup?
I got the collector
I
cup.
saw the cup.
It's very cool. It has
Very
Sky
cool.
Riley and it like changes.
That's sick.
It's fun. I'm going to get that Gladiator 2 popcorn box.
I just so easily I could get the Smile 2 cup,
Yeah.
get the Gladiator 2 box. Before I know it, in a year, I'm sitting in a room full of nonsense, and I've spent like $1,500 on it.
You definitely want to avoid what I was saying earlier about how one time at Universal Studios, I got the Chucky collector's popcorn box. This thing fits like 8 pieces of popcorn. I was like, oh, it's not functional? Why are you calling it a popcorn box? Like, am I the only asshole who's actually trying to eat popcorn out of this thing? Because you can't.
I see some people I love and respect, movie people, on Instagram, and they're like, I got 2 of the buckets just in case. It's like, just in case what? Your wife leaves you and you don't want to give it to her in the divorce? You give her the second one? All right. I really don't know.
Let's talk some movie news, baby. What's going on in Hollywood this week? We finally got to see a trailer for the aforementioned movie, The Brutalist, the movie everyone's talking about, Brady Corbett's The Brutalist. This is the top movie coming out of festival season. There was a poll of all the critics who went to all the festivals and saw all the movies. This was the highest rated movie coming out of the festivals, even higher than ANORA.
Whoa.
It is a 3.5-hour epic with an intermission that chronicles the life of Laszlo Toth, a Hungarian-born Jewish architect played by Adrian Brody, who survives the Holocaust and emigrates to the United States with his wife, Erzsébet, played by Felicity Jones, right?
Yeah.
And they to experience the American dream. They initially endure poverty and indignity, but soon he lands a contract with a wealthy client, Harrison Lee Van Buren, played by Guy Pearce, that will change the course of his life. It's distributed by A24. It's a Best Picture frontrunner. We're going to be talking about it a lot in the coming weeks and months. We finally got our first look at a trailer. It's just a teaser. But oh boy, Joe, what'd you think of this Brutalist teaser?
Fucking gorgeous. Amazing. The trailer, beautiful, but all of the shots look gorgeous. The thing about this movie is Corbett shot it in 70mm VistaVision for only $6.5 million.
How?
3.5 hours.
How does
We'll talk more about that later.
How does a movie that gorgeous? I want you to take everything you think you know about movie financing and then go watch the trailer, the teaser for The Brutalist, and realize that this movie cost $6.5 million, and then throw out everything you think you know about movie financing. Joe, we're going to have to do a full breakdown of this movie's budget at some point. But
Can't wait.
That'll be in future weeks.
But man, has a movie ever... I'll make this all about me because I'm talking on the podcast. I don't know if I've ever seen a movie more just designed to get me hyped. That trailer, I was like, yes, check, check, check. Big, massive shots. The birth of America, immigrants. Is that Ellis Island? Adrian Brody, 70mm.
It was giving me like, what if Terrence Malick directed The Godfather?
Right.
Is what it's giving me. It's like, what if, because it had like sort of Godfather coming to America. What is America? You know,
Once Upon a Time in America.
Yes,
Very that.
Yes, but it had those big like contemporary Terrence Malick, like Tree of Life Terrence Malick. It had those big Tree of Life shots in it, but combined with like an actual plot that's interesting. Give me more of the Brutalist, baby. Give me all you got of the Brutalist. I can't wait.
Fuck yeah.
Now, a movie that I'm a little less excited about that got announced this week is that Luca Guadagnino, who already had 2 movies come out this year, Challengers and Queer, which hasn't come out yet, was named as the director of the new American Psycho reboot that they're doing, that Lionsgate is doing, which is already a red flag.
No, we gotta support. Now
Lionsgate,
I want it.
You gotta play it safe.
Now
you can't
I want
do
it
the
to win.
Luca American Psycho. You gotta just do Saw 12.
Well, they're doing Saw 12 or 11.
This is because Lionsgate had probably the worst year any movie studios had in history. Their movies lost collectively about $600 million this year.
Except the ones that like literally closed. This has to be the worst. But Brett, wait.
Yes.
Slight pushback. Luca's aesthetic, his glossy, superficial, sexualized pop imagery might be the perfect complement to
I'll give you that. I'll give
American
you that.
Psycho.
I'm not the biggest Luca fan. I'm on record for that, but I think you're right that his style is a good fit for American Psycho. They said that, quote, they're rebooting it for the modern age with a fresh new take on the character.
He has a cell phone instead of a business card.
They they have no idea what it's going to be.
He wears a big T-shirt instead of fucking tie. Okay,
yeah, he's like Silicon Valley instead of Wall Street.
No,
actually, that's good. Do Silicon Valley instead of Wall Street.
Write that down.
Or do like Austin, Texas bros.
Oh, fun. Now you're thinking.
Right?
Now you're thinking outside the box.
Anyway, so Luca is the director.
Luca doing American
the writer
Psycho.
is Scott Burns, who's a big Soderbergh collaborator. He wrote Side Effects, The Informant, Contagion, also wrote The Bourne Ultimatum. So the other thing that is kind of a red flag, even though I like Scott Burns as a writer, the first American Psycho, one of I think the secrets to why it was so good is that it was famously directed by a woman and written by a woman, directed by Mary Herron, and then written by Guinevere Turner, who's also in the movie as one of Patrick Bateman's like victims. And Herron got a co-writing credit as well. So I think having that sort of, you've talked about this before, when the female gaze is like hidden inside the male gaze and it all feels different, you know?
With substance,
Yes, yeah. I feel like that's the secret of American Psycho, is that creative team. But now we got 2 dudes doing the new one. I don't know, Joe.
Here's my generous response, which is American Psycho, love it or hate it, is part of our sort of modern American canon. And much like if you were to do a production of, Medea, I'd want to see your take on it. So I just think that, like, you're right, and that's why American Psycho, the first one with Bale, works so beautifully. But American Psycho, Tale as Old as Time. The guy's greedy and crazy and a serial killer. Like, I don't think it needs. I want to see many people can tell this essential modern American story, and I'm interested to see Luca's glossy, sexualized take. I bet we're all going to be like, did he honor Bateman too much? And it's like, no, like that's going to be like the conversation.
Yeah,
I mean, he's going to like pan down his like chiseled abs, like covered in blood, and everyone's going to be like, did Luca want to have sex with him? And the answer, of course, is like yes and no, and people are just going to be stupid.
What do you
about
think about casting? What do you think about? Is this just like, does Timothy just like get this like because, or like Josh O'Connor, who we worked with in Challenger? It's going to be one of the hot boys.
It's not going to be O'Connor.
It's going to be one of the like rat boyfriend
no,
baby girls.
Fine, but
it's going to be someone from that.
It has to be
pool.
one that can like clean up good though. O'Connor's like
Chalamet has the jawline for it.
Chalamet's good. Chalamet's not going to be. He's not American Psycho though. He's like a little boy.
He would have to like
American Psycho. He has to like own it. Like I feel like the Elordi's are too young.
Elordi, yeah.
But Elordi was eating lunch with Luca though. Like Elordi's
really?
Elordi's who they say is going to be it, and I'm sure that'll be very good.
He's too.
But like I wish there was something.
He's too sweet because with Bale we know Bale will like yell at a DP. Yeah. Like Bale can access the darkness necessary for Bateman.
Bale's so great.
I don't know if Elordi can access the darkness.
We don't know what Elordi can do. I think Elordi is going to do a lot. I don't have a good. I wish I had a good answer. Like there's like all the classics, Mezcal,
Joe. I think I got
Holland.
No, I got the perfect casting.
Okay.
I did very definitively earlier in this episode say I was out on him.
No, but this would be
Glen Powell, baby. This is a Glen Powell role. Let Glen Glenn
Glenn
also
would murder this.
Glenn cannot access the darkness, but in a way that would like
Make it twisted.
make it worse.
Yeah,
Because he would just be like Glenn can do. Glenn can do this. Glenn can do this.
To watch.
He's got dead eyes, dude. He's got dead eyes.
Imagine
Lordy's eyes are too soft.
Luca's camera obsessing over Powell as Bateman.
Yes.
That'd be great.
Yes.
Now who's gonna play?
I'm still
Willem
out on
Dafoe's
Glen
part?
Powell.
Okay.
Oh, good question.
Probably Willem Dafoe.
Who's going to play Jared Leto's part? Who's getting the axe in the head? That's the real question. That should be Chalamet.
Yeah.
All right. Last news item. Blade, the Blade movie at Marvel. They've been trying to make this Blade movie forever. And it's been plagued by an endless array of delays caused by, for those COVID, the strikes, also just like casting and scripting issues. We talked about how it was originally going to be set in the 1920s, but now the studio wants it in the present day, and so they're trying to get a new script for that, and they can't do it. So they just finally took this thing off the release calendar. It had still been scheduled for November 7th, 2025. They were just like, nope, ain't gonna happen. So Blade is off of the studio calendar, the release calendar. It's probably back into development hell. Who knows if this thing will ever come out? But in its place, and we're talking about, this is the Disney conglomerate because they own Marvel, they own 20th Century Fox now, and all of those back catalogs. So in its place, we are getting next year, Joe, not one but two new Predator movies.
Yes!
Predator movies, baby. In 2022, they did Prey, which was a cool twist on
Prey.
Predator. It was great. That was straight to streaming, so we don't know
Loved
what it would have
that.
done theatrically. It was on Hulu. The director of Prey, Dan Trachtenberg, 20th Century said, hey, let's do some more Predators, baby. And he says, I've got some ideas. And apparently they greenlit two of his ideas, and they're both coming out next year. Now, we know about one. One of them is called Predator Badlands. It stars Elle Fanning. It's coming out on that November release
Great.
date instead of
Love
Blade.
Elle Fanning.
That's great. But you ask yourself, you're doing two Predator movies in the same year? What are we doing here? Listen to this quote from, this is all from 20th Century Fox's head honcho, Steve Asbell, in an interview that he did, I believe with The Hollywood Reporter. Listen, read between the lines here and see if you can figure out what this second Predator movie might be. He said, after Prey became a success, Dan Trachtenberg came back and said he didn't want to do Prey 2, and we're like, well, what else do you want to do in this universe? And he rattled off a bunch of ideas that were really crazy but really cool, and we've actually done two of them, so they're already like somewhere far down the line. And two are coming out next year, Asbell continues. One I can't talk about yet, but the other one is the live-action Predator film with Elle Fanning that just wrapped in New Zealand. Now, what do you notice about what he said that might give us a clue about the other Predator movie? And I haven't seen anyone else pick up on this yet.
Well, I don't know where you're going with this. You tell me.
But the other
I
one,
have an idea.
But the other one is the live-action Predator film. So is the other one animated?
Oh,
right? That's very interesting
okay.
phrasing.
I see. Well, that's what that must
the
be.
live-action Predator film.
Then
They've all been live-action. But
Right.
apparently you're saying that of the two, the one I can talk about is the live-action one. That would imply that the other one, whether you meant to indicate it or not, is animated?
Horrible.
Are we getting an animated
No,
Predator
I
movie?
hope-
What would that possibly
I
look
hope
like?
not. Let me push back. What about this? What if you're putting the emphasis on the wrong word and it's live-action Predator movie because they're doing an Alien vs. Predator movie?
Oh, okay.
Because 20th Century Fox, Romulus just did gangbusters.
The other one is the live-action Predator movie.
The other one is the live-action Predator movie. Unlike the Predator Alien vs. Predator one.
Here's another pushback, okay?
Okay.
I think Hollywood, and particularly the people who are in charge of these big franchises, are possibly tapping into something interesting where we have this new Lord of the Rings movie coming out I think in November that is animated, and it is animated in like an anime style. And we know we've seen in the box office, even the domestic box office, we see anime movies are doing big business. Even in the American box office, they're doing big business. They're creeping in the top 10. Are we going to get such a crazy speculation? But I'm putting the pieces together. Are we going to get an anime-style animated Predator movie? Is that where this is going?
They do this. I don't know what this is, whether they redid old episodes or made new ones, but on Max, when I was scrolling through, there's something called like Rick and Morty anime was like the number 1 or 2 thing last week. Like, much like Disney takes their cartoons and turns them into live action, maybe a great thing to do is you take your cartoons and live action and turn them into anime. There was another franchise that did this too, and not The Matrix, famously, of course, Animatrix.
Yes.
There was a Another one, but I like your guess.
Right?
I hope I'm right though, because I want to
Yeah.
watch Alien vs Predator.
That would
I
be
don't
awesome. That would be
want to
awesome.
watch a cartoon.
I don't have a
know
recording of the
you-
interview, so I
You're,
don't know what-
you're open to cartoons, which is nice. I'm closed
so-so.
off.
So.
Well, Transformers 1, you were like,
I gave it a
You were
shot.
ultimately
I
looking
famously
for it.
didn't like it, and then I got pilloried online by the ardent Transformers
haters
community.
gonna hate. Haters gonna hate.
Now, 20th Century also announced in the same interview that they also have an Alien Romulus sequel in the works that presumably is bringing back both Kaylee Spaney and David Johnson, the leads,
Good.
the two leads of Alien Romulus. So it seems like what's happening here over at Disney is that with Marvel going through this awkward, endless transition phase that it's in, that might just be the death knell of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, where they just can't. Everything's getting stuck in development. They're just not in. They're no longer in the glory days of Endgame and that era, which is everything is a hit and they come out like clockwork every year. Now it's like they can't get these movies even into development because of scripting issues and casting issues and directing issues, and they can't even get the new Avengers sorted out. So while they're in the Marvel is in this awkward transition phase, and I say that understanding that they have the second biggest movie of the year, but that might
You're not
end
wrong.
up that right now seems to be the exception that proves the rule. Deadpool and Wolverine. It seems like Disney is going to be leaning more on their 20th Century Fox purchase, and specifically 20th Century Fox's IP back catalog, Alien, Predator, etc. They even, in this interview, Steve Asbell even hinted at two other movies that would be amazing. The interviewer asked him about the possibility of a Speed 3, which, with Twisters doing so well, do the other Jean de Bont 90s action movie that did great, right?
He liked that.
He liked that a
suggestion.
lot.
Okay.
We might get Speed
Keanu
3.
back.
As bad as, Speed 2 Cruise Control, historic disaster, flop, but
Fucking whatever.
who cares?
What?
Could it be because you didn't have, with all due respect to Jason Patrick, maybe it's because you didn't have fucking the leads from the first one.
No
in
one's
it.
worried about Twister 2 or whatever 2.
And he said that there's also a Master and Commander prequel in the works
Oh my
over 20th
God.
Century. He said he's a big fan. It sounds like he really wants it to happen. Steve
I'm
Asbell is
don't
into
do
it.
That.
He said they're just looking for the right director. That does feel like a euphemism for development hell. But
Right.
fingers crossed on the Master and Commander prequel.
That's too funny. That's never gonna
I'd
happen.
love to see that.
Why would that
I'd
happen?
love to see
Did
that.
Master and Commander make a lot of money?
Get Glen Powell in a wig, put him on the ship. It writes itself. Still out on Glen Powell, though. All right, Joe, next up, we're going to review this week's new releases, ANORA and SMILE 2. But before we get to that, I do want to say for the audience that while we do try to avoid any major plot spoilers in our reviews, it is impossible to give an honest review of these stinking movies without talking about them in their entirety. And so if we're reviewing a movie that you don't want spoiled in the least, not even a little bit, and we're going to try to play it extra safe with ANORA, but if you don't want these movies spoiled at all, we recommend that you play it safe and put us on mute and then rejoin us when we move on to the next movie. Just keep an eye on the screen graphics. Or if you're listening to this or watching this after the live stream, I put all the time codes down in the description so you can see when we're doing what. So just catch up with us when you want to catch up with us. Let's talk about ANORA, Joe. Written and directed by Sean Baker, the auteur behind Tangerine, The Florida Project, Red Rocket. The DP on this movie is Drew Daniels and stars, as the poster will tell you, Mikey Madison as ANORA. It was distributed by Neon, who continues to have the best year in their existence, and one of the best years ever by an indie distributor. ANORA tells the story of a sex worker named Annie, birth name ANORA, who lives in Brighton Beach and works nights at a strip club in the city. There she meets Russian oligarchs, the son of a Russian oligarch, Vanya. They party, they hit it off, partly because she speaks Russian, and then he pays her to essentially be his girlfriend, do sort of a girlfriend experience thing for the following week. And during this week, they take a spontaneous trip to Vegas. They're partying everywhere, at his house and his mansion in Brooklyn, and then they fly to Vegas on a private jet. And while they're partying in Vegas, they're really hitting it off, and they decide to get married in Vegas. And then for 2 days, they're like they're doing the newlywed thing. They're like married in his Brooklyn mansion. They're doing drugs. They're fucking. They're playing video games. But then the honeymoon comes to a crashing halt when Vanya's handlers find out that he's gotten married, and they come over to the house to confront him. And then shit hits the fan, baby. Joe, what'd you think of ANORA?
Brett, I love Sean Baker. Tangerine, one of my favorite movies of all time. So going into ANORA, won the Palme d'Or. The buzz is out the wazoo. I had very, very high expectations walking in, and ANORA cleared that bar easily. ANORA really shows Sean Baker's mastery over storytelling, character work, theme, and camera work. I loved the acting in this movie. I loved Mikey Madison's performance, and I loved all the supporting cast. Particularly, shout out to the gentleman who played the young Vanya. Very funny, needle-threading performance that was absolutely wonderful. But this is Mikey's show, and she murdered
And that's
it.
Mark Eidelstein.
Mark Eidelstein. I love this movie is so upbeat and colorful in the beginning and for the first act while Anora's feeling great. And then it switches over and it looks very like electric and alive and beautiful. And then it switches over to the cool muted tones in Act 2, both of which pair beautifully and look amazing. I absolutely loved the camera and the camera work. It felt effortlessly natural. It felt super... you didn't even notice how much that camera was moving. And in some of the more difficult to shoot scenes, including the, if not famous now, soon to be famous 28-minute long Act 2 scene, incredibly difficult to shoot. Plus, like, think about those gigantic windows in that house and the way that they had to, it was 10 days they shot that with only 7 hours of daylight because they were trying to shoot in the wintertime because Anora happens in the winter. And for them to pull off that scene and make it seem so seamless and effortless, like it just happened over the course of a true 28 minutes, I thought that was brilliant. I thought the script was wonderful. I love the ballsiness of the structure. And I love Sean Baker's New York. I love Coney Island on film. I love Brighton Beach on film and the elevated subway in that part of Brooklyn. I love Sean Baker's look at his strip club. I love his Vegas. I love the tenderness with which he treats his characters, with the realism that he treats his characters. And I think this is another great Sean Baker movie. It's not my favorite Sean Baker movie, but I think this is just another great movie. Tonally, very funny. Also very sad. I fell in love with Anora every minute as the movie went on, and as time has gone on after seeing the movie, think back fondly on that character. Very strong, interesting, funny character. So overall, a unique movie. A lot of great Russian stuff, Russian Brooklyn stuff. A lot of that was great. Complicated high wire act tonally and thematically, especially between sort of the high highs of the Vegas stuff and the low lows of Coney Island and such. And I just think, I watched it after they gave it the Palme d'Or, and everyone's been saying it's the greatest thing since sliced bread for 6 months, and I still loved it and was charmed, and I thought it was pretty darn masterful. I don't know if it's my favorite movie of the year or my favorite Sean Baker movie, but I know that this was a work of high craft by an excellent team.
Yeah, same with me. Literally the only bad thing I can say about Anora, the only critique, is that it's not my favorite Sean Baker movie. That would still be The Florida Project for me, but that's such a high bar, and this movie fits so well into his filmography and does a couple interesting little moves that I think are an evolution of his style and an evolution of his storytelling. It's so good. Everybody has to see it. Mikey Madison is fantastic, like you said, in the lead role. Just a fearless, hilarious roller coaster of a performance. Should definitely get her an Oscar nomination at the very least. And she, not to dwell on the nudity and the sex and everything, but she said something interesting in an interview with the New York Times last week, where she was saying that she was always comfortable with the nudity and the sex scenes because quote, Anora was too. Anora was comfortable with them too, and there was never a thought in my head to be nervous or anything. And so the reason I bring this up is because I think it gets at what is actor's going to act, but in this movie,
I'm saying she's an actor's actor.
An actor's actor, exactly,
Sorry,
exactly. And I think it points at what's so great about the performance is that it's one of those performances where she knows that she's killing it. You can tell that she knows that she is perfectly suited to the character. She knows that everything is clicking. She knows that all her instincts are right. She just knows that she's found her perfect character, and so that gives it just the propulsion of this dynamic, fearless performance. All comes out of the fact that she doesn't think of, it's an actory thing to say, but I think in this movie it really is true that she just doesn't think of herself as separate from the character. Like, she's comfortable in the sex scenes because Anora is comfortable in the sex scenes, and I am Anora, and the performance has that sort of confidence to it and that fearlessness to it. It's also interesting in this movie that Sean Baker didn't use an intimacy coordinator for the movie, which has become, industry standard since Me Too. And obviously, would not recommend this as a general rule. You don't want David O. Russell being his own intimacy coordinator. But in the case of Sean Baker, this is a guy who all his movies are about sex workers. One of his missions as a filmmaker seems to be to humanize sex work and sex workers. He's friends with sex workers. He knows the world. And so in this isolated case, it seemed like it really benefited the movie. And I'm wondering if that's where, the sex scenes and the more intense scenes got their sort of realism and intensity and resonance from, is that Sean Baker probably is better at being an intimacy coordinator for his own movies than an industry standard intimacy coordinator, because he knows how to talk to the actors about the scenes. He knows the characters so well. He knows how to get them comfortable with it without sort of ruining the mystique and the dynamism he's trying to create in these scenes. And so again, not recommending that as a general rule. You don't want Todd Phillips being his own intimacy coordinator. Probably don't want Luca being his own intimacy coordinator.
Oh, come on.
And this is nothing, I'm just saying. There's different types of directors, and in this unique case, it feels like it benefited the movie to have Sean Baker, play the role of the intimacy coordinator, and that also I think is what contributed to Mikey Madison having just the confidence and the fearlessness to play this character and play this role. Sean Baker's writing and directing are just at peak form here. The movie is so funny; it humanizes every single character. There's a moment where these three Russian handlers that are like sort of mob adjacent, they seem like sort of mob archetypes, different points in the hierarchy, like the kind of like a kind of guy who's sort of at the corporate level, a guy who's sort of in the middle, and then just the sort of like tough guy henchman at the bottom. But then Sean Baker sort of effortlessly, but also with such detail, gives each character their own arc, their own identity. He never writes off anybody. He never lets anyone disappear into archetype. He never like just lets the archetype do the work, or let the sort of stock character do the work. He always humanizes everybody, makes every character feel relatable, usually because he just has them like make mistakes and have accidents and get hurt, and so then they have to show you their humanity as a result of that. And I think that's why Sean Baker is emerging among the sort of great contemporary directors. I think Sean Baker is emerging as our great humanist, because it seems like with a lot of the great directors working now, from Tarantino to PTA to even like Damien Chazelle, like the competition is over like virtuosity, whereas Baker isn't really concerned with virtuosity in the way that a lot of these particularly male directors are. He really is a humanist at heart, whose concern is for the characters and for the story, and almost as like bringing it down as much as he can, bringing it down to the human level, to the relatable level, to the resonant level. And I think it just has created a really unique filmography, of which ANORA is definitely a high point, if it's not my favorite of the filmography. And he does that through this incredible mix of comedy and a plot that is high stakes but also grounded and relatable. And I think most importantly to what the filmography he's crafting, he's always interested in these characters at the margins of society, characters who usually are at some kind of socioeconomic disadvantage, in some state of financial desperation. And because of that, in addition to becoming like our great humanist, I think Sean Baker's legacy is going to be that he is the great cinematic storyteller of late stage global capitalism. That he is telling stories that are never explicitly political or overtly political. They're never burdened down by heavy-handedness. But man, are they telling the story of this period of human history, and are they telling it so well? I think, he is the 20th century version of Charles Dickens or George Eliot or Steinbeck, like artists whose main concern was the relationship between individual and society. They were concerned with the way in which, macroeconomics and power and exploitation and corruption and bigotry all combined to sort of create the playing field of our existence. And we have to play on this like wobbly, uneven, unfair, fucked up playing field of late stage global capitalism. And his stories all sort of bring that to life in such an interesting way that does what art should do, which is showing that world, but putting your focus on the human beings who are sort of have to live in that world and don't get to be the puppeteers of the world. The puppeteers of ANORA you see for 2 seconds in a private office at like a private airfield at the very end of the movie. You finally see like the puppeteers, the Russian oligarch and his wife. But the movie is barely concerned with them. The movie is concerned with the people who have to be the puppets of the puppeteers, and them living their lives and trying to sort of cut their strings and fight against the powers that be. But ultimately are as much as they rage, the movies are always pretty honest about like, you can't win this game. Like the game is over. The game has been won by the oligarchs and the billionaires, and you're going to lose. But he humanizes the losers of global capitalism, I think, in such interesting and beautiful ways. And I think he really is slowly but surely, without trying to play someone else's game, I think slowly but surely he really is emerging. Sean Baker is as one of the great contemporary filmmakers, one of the great filmmakers of the 21st century, and without trying to play the game of virtuosity. And look, God bless the virtuosos. I can't wait for the Brutalist. But Sean Baker is going to do what Sean Baker does, which is 90 to 120 minute humanist stories that are funny and compelling and tragic and sad all in one. And
he finds plenty of grandeur and massiveness, in those small moments. Yeah.
And he had a line in an interview last week where he was kind of joking about like, here comes another Sean Baker sex work movie, and kind of joking about the fact that he sort of stays in this one lane in terms of the characters and the stories he's telling. But then he had another line that I really liked where he said, he's like, but look, he's like, as long as my focus is just telling a good story. And if I tell a good story, I think the audiences will forgive me the repetition. And I would say, Sean, not only do I forgive it, I encourage it, because it is your consistency and your focus that is building a real legacy of work, and not just this sense of someone sort of drifting aimlessly between projects. I mean, you're building a body of work, and the consistency is part of that. And there are also ways that ANORA, I think, evolves his style in really interesting ways. Yeah. I mean, the big thing that makes it unique is I like how he jumps between geographical locations for each movie, and like feels like he has lived forever in those locations, because he gives you such detail, such underbelly of these places. Where Tangerine was East Hollywood, Florida Project obviously Orlando, Red Rocket Texas City, Galveston, that south of Houston area, and then ANORA is his New York movie. We got a Sean Baker New York movie, which can't be
a great New York.
Like I kind of wasn't expecting that. So much of the focus in the trailer was like Mikey Madison and all the like. This is Sean Baker's New York movie. He gets to be Scorsese and Abel Ferrara and Susan Seidelman all wrapped up in one. He gets to give us Brooklyn, Brighton Beach.
Well, he really does the French Connection in the second half.
Yes,
it really is like that muted gangster, cool toned 70s aesthetic.
It's so great. And the other thing that I see Baker sort of evolving here with ANORA is that, unlike some of his previous characters, particularly Florida Project and Red Rocket, ANORA doesn't have as much leeway to live in the fantasy version of her life. She of course has like her week with the rich kid, and she gets to go to Vegas and party and be rich by proxy. But then the whole second half of the movie, and man, what a thrill it was when you get to the like 45-minute mark of this movie, and you're like, holy shit, I've seen every scene from the trailer. I have no idea what the second half of this movie is going to be. I have no idea. I love that feeling. And in the second half of the movie, Annie really has to just confront the reality of her life and live in the reality of her life. And even though she rages against it and tries to fight against it and tries to fight against this sort of this being exploited and getting everything given to her and then taken from her at sort of at the whims of the rich, she really has to, through the end of the movie, just live in the reality of her life. And she doesn't get that escape into fantasy that, Florida Project and Red Rocket both end with these scenes where the character is allowed to sort of escape into the fantasy version of their lives. And of course he's doing that to show you how fake the fantasy version is, that because it's not, it doesn't bear any resemblance to what we've seen leading up to it in the movie. But in ANORA, it was interesting for her not to get that escape into fantasy at any point, in the second half of the movie, that she just has to ultimately confront the reality of all this. I really liked that. It felt like an evolution of his style. And last shout out would be to Yura Borisov, who plays Igor, which is, at first he seems like maybe the most insignificant character. I mean, there's no insignificant characters in Sean Baker movies, but he feels like he's the least significant. He's going to have the least to do, the least lines. He's like the tough guy of the three Russian handlers that show up. But then in these shots, there's these shots where like he and ANORA will be in the same shot, and she's out of focus and he's in focus, and you start to be like, and he's not saying anything. He's just listening, because he's just there to get physical if things need to get physical. But you're like, what is Sean doing? Why is he focusing on the little tough guy? But he's like really listening carefully, and then out of that he builds the Russian henchman, the tough guy, into arguably the second most important character in the movie, and he does it step by step, slow step by slow step. But for everyone just wants to get rid of ANORA. This henchman ends up being the only guy who like is interested in ANORA and cares about her in any way, and wants to know more about her and sort of help her, and like wants and just the way that character emerges and goes from what seems like a supporting character into a main character is amazing and fascinating, and really gives the second half of the movie like its spine, and it gives it a spine around which Mikey Madison can give her big performance, which is so great. So loved ANORA. Everybody's got to see it. Smile 2.
Smile 2.
Let's talk about Smile 2. Written and directed by Parker Finn, who directed the first Smile. Director of photography, the DP, is Charlie Seraph. And the movie stars in a breakout performance Naomi Scott as pop star Sky Riley, who is preparing for a big world tour as part of her return to the spotlight a year after she was in a tragic car accident that severely injured her and killed her partner, played by Jack Nicholson's son, Ray Nicholson. She's also a recovering addict. We don't know kind of in what stage of recovery, probably pretty early stages. She's got a lot of stress and trauma in her life, and it only compounds 100-fold when she becomes the latest target of the Smile demon from Smile 1, who is an evil parasite that moves from human host to human host, breaking them down psychologically by playing on their fears until ultimately taking over their bodies and forcing them to kill themselves. And it's all triggered by the smile, the creepy smile. Will Sky be the Smile demon's latest fatality, or will she find a way out of her situation? You have to watch Smile 2 to find out. Joe, what do you think of Smile 2?
Brett, I'm glad you asked. I love Smile 2. Smile 2 actually was amazing. It was the scariest horror movie of the year, period. This movie had me going, like 5 times, and it had me slipping down in my chair like twice. Like, you think, or I think, you think you've seen it all when it comes to jump scares, but this mother effer, Parker Finn, he's like the jump scare like artiste. This guy's pulling out jump scares left and right. He tricked me every time. The jump scare is such like a tired thing that we all sort of have to deal with, and when people do it well, it's very impressive. Like I was really impressed earlier this year in First Omen, had some really nice, really excellent scary jump scares. Nothing compared to how scary these jump scares were in Smile 2. I was like, bah, bah. Parker Finn, amazing. Smile 1 in 2022, everyone was talking about Barbarian, a movie that I like very, very much, and all these other horror movies. And then Smile came out, made $1 gajillion. It was sort of the studio's horror entry, so it wasn't really for the cool kids. I watched Smile 1 and I go, well, that was freaking amazing. I loved Smile 1. I couldn't believe what I was seeing because it's one of my favorite horror things. When the actor is the scary thing, that's just like you're singing my language. Like when the actor's being the scary body, like in Pulse, the body climbing over the couch, or
Joe, yeah.
Oh, I just lost another one.
Manhunter.
Whatever, anything. When the human body
Tom
is the thing
Noonan
that's
in
scaring you,
Manhunter.
instead of sort of like the effects or the special effects or the gore, I just find it really impressive and amazing, and Smile does it so great. So I want to give a big shout out to this director, Parker Finn. This mother effer, he made a short film version of Smile. Then he made Smile. Smile went on to make a ton of money. And then he directed Smile 2, which, Brett, is better than Smile 1.
Mm-hmm.
This guy, Parker Finn, you're my Osgood Perkins, honey.
Here we go.
Osgood Perkins directed Longlegs. Great. Good movie. I liked it very much. Parker Finn should be the guy who I want to see from the imagination of, from the mind of Parker Finn.
Yes.
Not Ty West.
The Osgood Perkins we were promised.
Not Osgood Perkins.
Is actually Parker Finn.
Parker Finn is our best young horror director. Folks. Because Parker Finn, he's not resting on his laurels. He's bringing big theatrical scares. Brett, I love Smile. I love Parker Finn. I love acting. Oh, and then finally, speaking of acting, I love this performance by Naomi Scott.
Incredible.
We've had a lot of good horror performances this year. There's been Tiger Free.
Nell Tiger Free.
Nell
in
Tiger
the
Free.
First Omen. She was fantastic.
She was fucking great.
Great.
I was a humongous fan of Willa Fitzgerald in Strange Darling. She was
Oh,
transcendent.
So good.
Now, I don't know if Naomi was the best of the bunch because those are some goodies, but she is right there, folks.
Yeah, yes.
She is right there in our like Scream Queen of the Year contention. She delivers. She can dress up and sing and dance like a pop star, unlike my girl, Lady Raven, shouts.
But we love that about
we
Lady
love
Raven.
Lady Raven.
We love that
Lady Raven is the Taylor Swift in Trap,
From
who
Trap.
we love, and it's M. Night Shyamalan's daughter, and we love Trap, and Trap's awesome. Naomi Scott might
really
be a little bit more
does it.
believable
Yeah.
as a big major pop star. And then not only can she do those moments great, but she can do the horror moments great. Smile 2's got some real nasty shit in it. I really respect that. I mean, we had just saw Terrifier 3, so you think I'm going to go in there and roll my eyes and be like, I don't know anybody. Some nasty shit in Smile 2.
Yeah.
I have so much love in my heart for the Smile franchise. I love that it's not trauma-based horror. It's not spectacle-based. Well, it's not like a special effect-based horror.
Yeah.
It's not some IP from the past. It doesn't have big stars in it. I love this franchise. It's just about good acting, well told, and great jump scares. Parker Finn, I love you.
Joe, I could not agree more. Smile 2 fucking rocks. It goes so hard, but it's also precise and masterful and stylish. So it's like the best version of a movie going for it, going hard for it, because it has the chops. It's gorgeous. It's sleek. Even more, I would say, even more than the Suspiria remake, Luca's Suspiria remake.
Good movie.
Yes. Maybe my favorite Luca. I think this is what Giallo looks like in 21st century American cinema. This to me feels like the 21st century American version of Giallo, of the Italian horror, genre in the 70s and 80s and so on. In that it has this sort of operatic high style to it. It has gorgeous color schemes, heightened performances, and it's fucking scary. And so that combination of like art horror with an actual like the scares of a popcorn horror movie is amazing. And to me, I was like, oh, this is what, because things never, when people try to like replicate the styles of the past, they never get it right. You have to this is what American 21st, this is what American Giallo would be like, is Smile, where it's like pop culture-y and it's this and that, but it has still that sort of operatic, gorgeous like veneer of a Giallo movie. This movie, like Joe said, is scary. It's tense. I also love that as stylish as the movie is, and let me go with this for a second. It has at its heart what is a fairly silly, hacky, like MacGuffin. The smile, like people doing a creepy Kubrick smile, because when you see it at like the baseball games, like the viral marketing they do at the baseball games where people are smiling behind home plate.
Oh, remember that?
Yeah,
I forgot about that.
They're still doing that in the playoffs this year for Smile.
Oh, they
2.
are?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
And there was a hilarious clip where a guy was doing that and they hit a foul ball over the dugout and it came near him and he went from doing the smile to going like, oh shit. And then we had to go back to doing the smile. So the smile is, but this is what I love about the movie, is you take what is kind of a hacky premise, creepy smile, and then you make this gorgeous, sleek, actually scary movie out of it.
Because 8 out of 10 times, the smile being the scary thing is going to be lame and not scarier.
I want you to imagine.
I hear you.
See what you think about this. I think the best way I can explain Smile 2 to people who haven't seen it yet is like, imagine if Jim Carrey's movie The Mask was directed by Dario Argento. Imagine if Argento did The Mask with Jim Carrey, where it has this like hacky central thing, the mask, the smile, but oh god, like if Jim Carrey's The Mask had like the opera and the poetry and the color of a Giallo movie to it, that to me is what Smile is. That's
I
Smile 2.
I like that for you. I like that.
But you don't like it.
No,
for
no,
you.
I
You don't like it for
I like
you.
that for you. That's good.
Look, go see the movie, and then you tell me what you're like.
You tell me.
If this person directed this, because it's the kind of movie that makes you. It's just it's such a like self-possessed stylistic movie. It's the kind of movie where you want to like compare it and sort of like where do I place this? Because it's fucking going hard. And it's like
so
this movie
hard.
demands
creative,
demands to be placed in the context of film history. That's how good it is. You know, that's how fucking good it is.
I completely agree.
breakout performance by Naomi Scott. She's so fucking good.
She's great.
Like Joe said, they nailed the pop superstar thing. She's more of, if we compare her to Lady Raven, she's more of like a Charlie XCX. Like she's
Lady Raven's Taylor
she's
Swift.
sexy, cool. Lady Raven's Taylor Swift, and they fucking nail it. Smile 2 rocks. You all got to see it in theaters. Did you see what was announced about Parker Finn's next movie?
No.
Joe.
Not Smile 3?
Joe.
What?
And if I had heard this before I saw Smile 2, I would say, oh, no.
Hit me.
I'm excited about this.
What is it?
Parker Finn apparently is doing a remake of Possession starring Robert Pattinson.
Oh, he's directing that?
Apparently he is I don't know if it's official or still rumored, but Google it. A lot of stuff will come up. Apparently Parker Finn might be directing a Possession remake, the movie with Sam Neill and Isabella Adjani, which has become like everyone's cult favorite horror movie in the last 5 years. Parker Finn might be doing like, honestly, who would you rather have doing a Possession remake?
When I heard there was a Possession remake, I said,
now you're like,
now I'm fucking in. Talk about a great acting is the scary thing movie. Possession invented that shit.
The ultimate.
Dude, he's going to murder that.
I think so.
It's like the opposite of Derrickson doing Night of the Hunter with Cargill.
Oh, God. Now, speaking of approaching older movies, Joe, we got to re-rank a couple of our fantasy movies here because
let's hit 'em.
We did earlier this year on the show. We did a fantasy draft of 2024 movies. We picked, we made teams of 5 movies plus 1 alternate, and these are the movies we thought that we collectively would like the most because we're the ones rating them, and whoever gets the highest ratings overall wins. Now, right now, I'm at 29.5. You're at 32, so you have a 2.5 point edge on me.
Seen 4 out of the 5 movies on each side.
We both only have 1 movie left. I have Gladiator 2 left. You have Conclave left.
Those are both good ones.
Both
to have.
of which are great.
Those are cool to have.
Yeah.
I like that.
But in looking at these reviews, particularly the reviews of 2 movies, I Saw the TV Glow and Civil War. We both said those ratings feel like first watch ratings. They don't feel like right for the
What's
movies.
going on there?
Yeah.
Civil War has a 6 here.
Right.
I Saw the TV Glow has a 6.5.
So we're going to re-rate. We rewatched I Saw the TV Glow and Civil War this week.
I did.
I did too. And we're going to re-rank them. So let's start with Civil War because that's on your team.
Yes.
And our initial ratings were, you gave it a 4.
Yes.
I gave it a 2.
Yes.
For 6 total. Joe, after rewatching Civil War, do you have any new thoughts and would you like to change your rating?
Civil War is one of the best movies of the year. It was much better I watched it for the 3rd time on 3rd watch. Well, not much better, but it was even better. There is nuance in that film. It is insanely well shot and edited, and I really enjoyed the writing this time for the first time. I liked sort of how the movie's theme of mentorship is explored, how the themes of war and your calling in a war is explored. I loved the violence, and I found it terrifying, and as we get closer to the election, it was even more terrifying. Brett, you're going to fucking kill me, dog, but Civil War, if I had to re-rank it, I'm going 4.5.
Oh, no.
4.5.
This feels like insider trading.
No, is that look?
No.
I would never.
I would never. We're
See,
honest.
The first time I saw it got a 4, and it was.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I'm going 4.5 because it really is a distinctive, bold movie that is really, I find, insightful and nerve-wracking and sort of brilliant in a couple different ways. I'm sorry, Brett. I like.
You don't have to apologize
more.
to me. You only have to apologize to yourself.
I don't want to apologize to
Joe,
myself.
after rewatching Civil War, I did not change my low opinion of it that much, but I did change it a little. I think that Civil War is a sleek, stylish movie with uninteresting characters and lifeless dialogue. I think it's a so-so Kirsten Dunst performance, which I didn't even know was possible. And ultimately, I think it's a movie that is not able to cash the check of its own ambition. I don't think it has a whole lot to say, and I think all you're left with ultimately is the shell of an important movie that I don't even know if it wants to be an important movie. At some points, it seems to know that it's not going well and starts to lean more into sort of playfulness and sort of like almost satire. I did this time like the little fuck around aspects of like the road movie plot a little bit better, where they're kind of getting from point A to point B.
Okay.
But the dialogue is just so stiff that it undermines the style and flair of those moments. The movie is just overwritten and a little pompous. I also did not mind the device of the war photographers and journalists as much this time. That was a real low point for me the first time. I think I said it was the worst possible way you could have told this story.
Never made sense. I didn't get that.
It is, on rewatch, it is a sleek device for moving you through the various levels of the Civil War world quickly. So it is, I think, useful as a device. I also, my favorite part of it the first time and definitely my favorite part the second time, I really like the action sequences. Just all of the technical aspects of filmmaking, from the sound design to the editing.
Thank you for saying sound design, right? It was
breathtaking.
Awesome.
I mentioned that the first time. You could feel the guns in your bones every time they go off.
I listened to it. I watched it on headphones this time. My God.
Yes. So I think, look, the action sequences are breathtaking. The battle for DC sequence at the end, breathtaking. I was, on a technical note, though, still bugged by the extreme shallow focus he keeps using. He uses it so much. Yeah. Pretty much any shot with any depth to it has this extreme shallow focus. 90% of the time it seemed unnecessary. It just felt like an empty artistic gesture, like a lot of the movie. Yeah. So that just wasn't working for me. I just kept wondering why. They look, again, it looks like people with their on Zoom with their backgrounds blurred out. That's how extreme the shallow focus is. Yeah. I, again, really, really like the two sequences with the redneck sort of militia people in it. The one with Jesse Plemons, everyone knows about, is great. But I think even this one, the better one is the one at the gas station. I think that gas station scene is phenomenal. Where they've like strung up these quote unquote looters and they're just sort of bleeding them to death while they figure out what to do. And there's like no authority left and no one knows what to do. And everyone's like worst instincts are coming out. But it's also sort of like casual and like the stakes seem low, even though you have two people strung up bleeding to death.
They've been in war for 5 years, so they're all fucking dead to it. But then Kaylee Spaney is like the audience, you know.
Yes.
And
seeing it for the first time.
Gets like inured. Is that the word? Yeah. She gets used to it as the movie goes on, just like the audience does.
So I like that scene a lot.
It's like a fucking punch.
I like that scene a lot. But for every scene like that, we get 3 scenes that are like man, there is Joe. You have to admit, there is a like god awful sequence where they're like driving through. They're driving through the forest, and I guess like there's a little mini forest fire going on, and the sparks from the fire are like coming into the car, and they play some fucking like Mumford and Sons ass song over that montage, and they're all like looking at the sparks, and it's kind of, I'm like, what is the vibe? What is this vibe? The movie. My problem with the movie is I cannot read the vibe. Thank you. But that's so.
Dude,
that's so important.
You're not wrong. The movie's music is odd the whole entire way through.
It's a Michael Mann does that a lot too, like in movies. I remember there's a moment in Collateral where he plays like literally the worst song he could have possibly played at like a key moment, and I'm like, Michael, why would you do this? This ruins the mood.
I'm not even going to sit here and be like, well, it's genius because like they're just like weird choices. That it's like he didn't want to be manipulative, but it's not it's just crazy choices on some of the songs, and I think it like. Sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. The one you said is one of my least favorite ones.
It's bad, and the sequence is edited like a fucking car commercial. There's big sequences like that where I'm like, wait, I almost had a handle on this movie, and now I don't know what the fuck you're doing, because this thing is chaos now, and it's just silly, empty artistic gestures all over the place.
I just enjoy it's like big philosophical swings, and as I've said before in the previous podcast, that soft focus in this movie doesn't bother me because in the pictures that he flashes are all like crystal clear. And I actually love the war photographer thing, and I love thinking about like I like this movie's themes, photography and like why they do it. Kirsten Dunst says, you know, I used to think when I was over in the Middle East taking pictures, sending them back, I was sending a warning, and now here I am. Yeah. And it's like, and then what are you doing it for? And you know what they're doing it for? They're sick little fucking freaks. Okay. And the whole country's sick little fucking freaks. How about that guy after they kill the 3, combatants when they're in that firefight randomly, and then he's just like pumping it full of like a machine gun, those corpses,
and he's screaming.
Just, like, smiling and
you know what? Like I did like that. I kind of missed that shot in the first screening. I really like that shot.
Everybody at 5 years into the war, right here at the end. It's just like they're trying to get their fucking demons out and enjoy it.
My last couple kills before the purge is over.
And that's what Kirsten Dunst is doing. Like they are, and the photographers and the journalists, like they're not trying to save anybody anymore. They're trying to like collect scalps. Like they're fucking freaks looking for the.
I like
freakiest
listening to you
picture.
talk about the
Fucking
movie.
Great.
I get the point you're making. I just did not. It just continue to not have the same experience with that movie that you do. I do think 2 is a little harsh though. I'm gonna up my rating to a 3, so that puts us at a 7.5 for Civil War. And look at that. The rich keep getting richer.
Well,
That ups
you're gonna.
that ups you to 33.5.
Oh,
What?
well, we still have another movie to do.
I saw the TV Glow, Jane Schoenbrun's second feature film. I gave it a 3, you gave it a 3.5 for a total of 6.5. I'll be quick here because I already mentioned this on our mid-year recap episode. I've now seen it 3 times. The second time I watched it, I liked it a lot more than the first time I watched it. The first watch, it just felt like a movie that was stylistically a little unwieldy. But I think a lot of that was just, it's a very detailed, intricate movie. And on the first watch, you just don't, there's things you're missing. You don't see the full architecture of the movie yet. You don't know the themes. You don't sort of know where the characters are going to end up. And there's a lot in it that's like foreshadowing, a lot of time jumps. So it's a movie that
Definitely
really
rewarding on,
Yes.
on a rewatch.
Yes. It's a very intricate, detailed movie on the rewatch, and not at all like a sort of empty stylistic movie. There's a real thought to everything and a real detail to everything, and I think everything has meaning. I cannot stress enough how amazing and masterful the show within the show is. Like all the scenes from the Pink Opaque, which is like 90s CW teenage fantasy horror, you know, you're Buffy, you're Charmed. They're doing a version of that, and it's just so spot on the way they do it. The performances still feel not great to me, and I think they feel like over-directed. I think Jane Schoenbrun really saw this movie as like a symbolic text where all the details were controlled and all the themes were very controlled. And I think, unfortunately, a casualty of that is that the performances are treated as like pieces of the puzzle. And I think what happens is that you just don't get the most naturalistic or authentic performances that way. The actors feel like they're acting towards themes and towards like symbolic meaning versus just acting the character. And so you get kind of like that Wes Anderson style of acting where it's just like Wes's little dolls and he's just moving them around. The dialogue is also, you know, it's overwritten. It's tough to know. Some of it feels intentionally overwritten because they are learning their language through the show, and so it's like the overwritten dialogue that teenagers, you know. So it's overwritten, but I don't know how inauthentic it is to sort of like, you know, heady, hard on their sleeve, moody emo teenagers. Like it kind of feels real to that world, but it doesn't make it any easier to like listen to. I think sad little teenage soliloquies.
I think it's just the crime is it's one note.
Yeah,
it's like all those moments are like resonant and read, you know, a version of true. But I just find that in the film, it's like, okay, well, now we're an hour in, like we should shake it up.
Yeah,
I can't do another sad speech.
Yeah, I agree with that. But overall, I do think on subsequent rewatches that this is a really good movie. Yeah. There's just so much beauty and weirdness and detail in it. It's so gorgeous and haunting. And it has some really high moments, some really high points for the occasional low points. I do think Jane Schoenbrun is a very stylish, visionary auteur in the process of becoming, you know, who they're going to be. I still think we are early in the Jane Schoenbrun filmography, which is exciting. I'm very excited to see where Jane goes from here. I'm going to bump my rating up to 4 out of 5 for I Saw the TV Glow.
Nice. I gave this movie a 3.5 the first time I saw it. So I rewatched it for the first time. I remember thinking it was really good. And upon rewatch, you know, I still think it's really good. I think it has moments that are brilliant. It has like 4 or 5 parts or shots that are just so original, creative, and personal that they really kind of do take your breath away. I do feel that this movie, though, has long stretches of, okay, can I be done watching this movie now disease?
Yeah.
I wanted, no offense, like here's some things. Jane is really talented because some of these shots are just like, whoa. Also, thematically, whoa. You know, like, okay, wow, unique, right? I am not one of these fucking like sad media obsessed 90s kids though. I'm just like, I can't stand sometimes like the TV addiction.
I am, and I still feel the way you feel.
Okay, right. It's just like, that being said, like this movie is obviously like abundantly personal, and that reads, and all of the moments that I am, can connect with, I do. But overall, I found that this movie is moments of brilliance paired with stretches of slog.
Yeah.
I kept saying to myself, like, oh my God, I just want to play my fucking game. Okay, can we please wrap this up? Like, she's talking, and I'm like,
all right, what did you give
no,
it?
I was like,
did you not? You didn't change your rating, did you?
No, it's a 3.5.
Fuck.
It's a really good movie.
All right,
but
so
it's not better than.
So you gained half a point. The rich get richer. You gained half a point.
But
net.
gained half a point.
Net you gained half a point.
Net I gained half.
Because you gained a point and a half. I gained a point, so you gained half a point net.
Yes, that's right.
So I saw the TV Glow. We're bumping up to a 7.5. And then that moves me up to 30.5. So you are firmly 3 points ahead of me.
Right.
I don't think I can catch you, but we'll see.
This exercise was important, though, because Civil War and I Saw the TV Glow aren't 6s. They're more like 7.5s.
This feels right now. They were the two outliers that fell off.
Yeah.
And this now feels pretty good. So it all comes down to Gladiator 2 versus Conclave for the win. You're up. I need to make up a 3-point differential. I don't think I can do it, but we'll see.
I remember what I wanted to say about I Saw the TV Glow. I know it's Jane's electric homework. That's what I felt like I was watching.
Yeah.
Okay, we're done.
That's good. All right. Coming up next week on the show, we are going to be talking about, very excited for this, we got the new Venom movie.
Oh, Conclave.
And Conclave, baby. That's why we had to do this week, because we're coming up on Conclave week. And on Weekend at Bergman's, the theme is two movies that Joe likes.
Yes.
We're
two
going
of
to
my
be
favorite horror movies.
We're going to
is
be
the
pitting
theme.
two of Joe's favorite 80s horror movies. We're going to be pitting Dario Argento's Opera against Halloween 2.
I
Halloween 2.
hope you and listeners
can't
enjoy
wait.
these movies as much as I do. These are two of my absolute favorite horror movies and two of my favorite movies of the 80s.
I think
I'm
I might
obsessed with them.
actually take this opportunity to watch the Halloween franchise. At least the first run of the movies.
Go forth, kid.
Yeah, I got to do that.
Go forth, Bubba.
Now, speaking of Weekend at Bergman's, we are about to come back in a mere 10 minutes for tonight's Weekend at Bergman's. This will be only on the Patreon. Patreon.com/moviesbaby with 5 Ys. Join us over there, please. You can sign up for a free trial, a 7-day free plan before you get charged to see what's going on. So you're hanging out, you're liking the mood. Let's keep this party going, baby. Let's go over to Patreon, keep this party going. I'm like ANORA trying to get people in the VIP room. You want to go? Let's go to Patreon, keep this party going. What do you say? We're going to be, tonight, our 80s series continues, our 80s horror month continues. We are going to be pitting Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer against Child's Play. Henry, Portrait of a Serial Killer representing the art house versus Child's Play, the first Chucky movie representing popcorn movies.
Serial killers.
Serial killers is the theme. All right, y'all. Join us there. We'll be there in a mere 5 to 10 minutes. We can't wait to see you there on Weekend at Bergman's. And then Movies Baby crew, we'll see you next week for another big one. Bye.